Hello, I am Dan, aka the tipster in a suit, and I may not have been to the most racetracks. I've definitely not seen the most horses, but I am the best judge of race form that I know, and I'm here to prove it. I wanted to do something slightly different with this video, and I wanted to get my early selections in for the Cheltenham Trials Day. It's an 8-card meeting with the Clarence house having been removed from Ascot to the card, and it looks like a bit of a banger, to be honest, guys. It's a shame that I can't go due to work, but I wanted to get my selections in nice and early with my bets, so you're aware of what I've gone for. I do want to start with a little celebration. Anyone who watched my first ever video will know that I put up Kilbeg King for the Cheltenham Festival. He did have an early entry for Doncaster this weekend, but thankfully Honeyball has decided not to send him. Hopefully he's preserving that juicy mark of 142 for the Cheltenham Festival itself. Thank you for everyone who's liked, commented and subscribed. Do let me know what you think of my selections down below, and I'll get on to it. It starts with a Juvenile Hurdle. The market is led by Burdett Road, and that will be my selection. May seem like an obvious one, I know. I already have £10 on him at 7-1 for the Triumph. I was blown away by the way he breezed past absolutely everyone at Cheltenham. His jumping did leave a little bit to be desired, but Cobden was confident enough to just switch him off out the back and send him on his way, where he beat Brendan Fasso, who went and won next time at Cheltenham. The telling thing with Burdett Road was Cobden's interview after the race. He was absolutely beaming from ear to ear, and when asked about the horse, he instantly replied that there was not a better one in his yard, referring to Paul Nicholls. I do see Sir Gino as the main rival in this race. I do wonder if he will be better the further he goes in time. And Woodhoo I see as a Boodles horse for Gordon Elliott, so I expect him to run a little bit of a stinker in this one to get his mark down, ready for the Cheltenham Festival. Because of that, I've taken £20 on the nose already at 7-4. The next race is at 12:40. It's the 2 mile 4 handicap. It's led by Ginny's Destiny and also Blow Your Wad. Now, I think both those have ran with a lot of credit the last 2 times, but I question whether the handicapper has caught up. For example, Ginny's Destiny for its last 2 wins has gone up an astonishing £12, and Blow Your Wad for coming second to Le Patron, who granted went and won the Henry VIII at Sandown on Tingle Creek Day. Did confirm that form the next time out, but he has gone up £9 for those 2 runs. So I've looked a little bit further afield on this one. I've gone for Persian Time. Now, both of his runs have been at 2 miles, but I think there's some good form in those runs. He beat Home Public and Authorised Speed last time out, and he only received a £4 rise for that. And the time before that, he was a 5 lengths second to DeGello. Now, DeGello was rated 135 on that day, and he's now gone on to be a 149 rated horse. So it leads me to believe there's a little bit of juice in that mark. Whether he stays is a question mark, but I have to have a little bit of faith in Henderson, who did have the option of the 2 mile handicap at Doncaster, but instead sends him here for the 2 mile 4 trip. It is a competitive affair, so I've only gone £7.50 on the nose at 7-1, and again, that's already been taken. The next is a handicap at 3:15, if I could just get it up. It's a 2 mile 4, and again, it's led by Fugitive, the ever-present, always game Fugitive, and El Ridotto. Now, Fugitive did get a £6 rise for his last win for the Gold Cup win in December, and El Ridotto, who finished second behind him, got a £5 rise. I think that is quite high in the weights, and while they're both ultra consistent at Cheltenham, I think there'll be one lower down in the weights who'll be able to stay in front of them, and I imagine their marks will come down a little bit with the festival in mind. That has led me to 2 selections. I've already got only a £5 on the nose on Victorino, and I'm going to leave the other selection as they're both entered elsewhere at Doncaster, and with it being anti-post, I don't want to outlay too much before it goes non-run and no bet. Now, Victorino looked ultra impressive at Ascot last time out, beating the Cromwell Raider Yeah Man. He also beat Phlegmatic back in third and Blackjack Magic back in fourth. Now, I think that's going to turn out to be one of the best handicaps this season. Bearing in mind, he had Man coming up at him. He stayed on gamely, and he only went up £4 for that win. The time before, Victorino won, and again only got given a £4 rise. And again, I think he did it rather comfortably, and I think there's some juice in his mark. So the plan will be, when final decks come, and if they do get entered in this race, I will add an additional £10 on the nose on Victorino. And my second selection is Galore, who's also entered at the 3 miler at Doncaster. Now, the last time he was in a handicap at 2 mile 4 was the Paddy Power Gold Cup Fugitive one, but the year before. He did that off 142 and is now rated 150, but he beat some decent sorts in behind with French Dynamite, who's now a graded horse, albeit grade 2, and Midnight River in behind. He's then been tried since at 3 miles, and Snowden's convinced that he's a grade 2, grade 1 3 miler, but I'm not quite sure he sees out the trip. I'm hopeful that he steps back here, and off 150, if Snowden is right that he's a graded animal, he should do well receiving weight from those at the top of the market. But again, I will have to wait on that one to get the bets in, with it being anti-post. Next up is the Cotswold Chase, and I've gone for last year's winner, Ahoy Senor. He does seem to be more of a spring horse, Ahoy Senor, all of his best form coming later on in the season. I saw mention of him being a Stayers Hurdle outsider. If he doesn't win here, then there is potential they'll go down that route. But it looks a weak enough field this time. Head of the market is Royal Pagar, who ran a good race in the King George the year before, maybe putting to bed the doubts whether he's a Haydock specialist, and did really, really well winning the Betfair Chase, beating Brave Man's Game on that occasion and the aforementioned Gentleman's Game. He, however, is shorter in the market than Ahoy Senor, and on best known produced RPRs is behind Ahoy Senor, whilst having the same rating. Stay Away Faye, I do want to briefly mention on, I think is criminally priced 7-2 on a novice, only getting his second run over fences. He was gaining beating Giovinco, I've mentioned it before, but is he good enough to go and beat these classy grade 2, potentially grade 1 animals? I'm not so sure. The real whacker will need to step on again from last year's form. He's looked questionable in the handicap at Cheltenham at the start of the season and did all right in the King George, but I don't think he's quite at the level of the other two. And at the prices, I've taken Ahoy Senor. I've done £10 on the nose of that at 7-2. Next is the rearranged Clarence House, and I'll briefly say John Bon wins, doesn't he? Shame Al Fabiola hasn't turned up. It's shame for my selection too, as I'm sure John Bon would do brilliant in the Ryanair. However, Al Fabiola goes to the Dublin Racing Festival, and he just wins here at 1-4, doesn't he? Up next is the 3 o'clock, and that sees Lossiemouth's return to Cheltenham in the Unibet Hurdle. Scandalous, Constitution Hill won't be here, real shame, but it does mean the race is more competitive. Lossiemouth has questions to answer up in open company. I often find the juveniles will need the additional year. If you look at Goshen, he ran no race at all the season after he was due to bolt up in the Triumph. And while Lossiemouth has looked impressive, until she goes and does it in open company, I'm happy to leave it to one side. And Perry Pass opened as a favourite, even money, and is drifted out to centre 2. That would suggest someone knows somewhere he's not going to be heading to Cheltenham. Love Envoy has been disappointing the last twice. It was a slog at Sandown last time out, just fallen to Not So Sleepy in the rearranged fight in 5th. However, I don't think 2 miles is her trip. I think she's best seen to effect over further. That leaves me to Rue Board, who has not lost since February last year, apart from to Constitution Hill over Christmas. He seems to be Britain's best 2 miler, and I'm happy, despite giving Lossiemouth £6, £7 even, and he's going to have to give Love Envoy £9 due to the conditions of the race. I think his form is rock solid at 2 miles, and with Nichols pulling him out of the Champion Hurdle, I imagine this will be the target before Aintree. So while it is competitive, I've only done £7.50 on Rue Board. Next up is the Cleeve Hurdle, and it's much the same contestants in this one. I can say the same things about Dasher Drasher, Paisley Park Champ. They're all fairly consistent, all tend to swap wins. You can throw Marie's Rock in there as well. I like a bit of an outsider in Noble Yates. Now, if you look at his Cheltenham entries, he is only entered for the Stairs Hurdle. His reappearance was over 2 mile 4, which is an inadequate trip if you consider Sean Bowen had to get scrubbing along on him in the Gold Cup about 2 seconds into the race. He's an out and out stayer, as proven by winning the Grand National. And I quietly fancy his chances in this race. He's a 12 to 1 poke for this, and he's 33 to 1 on Paddy Power to go and win the Stairs Hurdle. That will be shorter if he does go and win this. And I think you can imagine a world where Noble Yates will be staying onto the line at the end in the Cleeve Hurdle, and he could pip a few of these towards the finish. I've gone £7.50 at 12 to 1 on Noble Yates for the Cleeve Hurdle, and with that in mind, I've also put £5 each way on him for the Stairs Hurdle at 33 to 1. It leaves the novice race at 4:10, the last race of the day at Cheltenham, where Gidley Park looks a rock solid favourite at even money. He's highly fancied by Johnny Deneen, who I believe has put him up in the Ante series. However, I like the look of Lookaway. He has rock solid Cheltenham form, having won there earlier on in the season and confirming that in the Handicap won by Empirico Lord. He then went on and came second in the Challow Hurdle. They looked to all be out on their feet in what was testing conditions, not quite getting back to Captain Teague, holding off Johnny Hu. Johnny Hu is also in this market, but I'm sure he's going to be in the 3 mile novice race at Doncaster. And Django Bay is also entered here. I believe they've done that to keep him away from Jericho de Repenay, who's in a 2 mile novice race at Doncaster. They did the same with Wilmount in the Challow Hurdle, and he ran no race at all. Now, Django Bay does look more of a staying type, but I'm not convinced he wants the 2 mile 4, and I think this is more of an afterthought for him. So between the two at the top of the market, Lookaway is 10 to 3, and I've had £10 on Lookaway. I don't know how to post all of my bet slips. I'm desperately trying to find out. I will be keeping tabs. Unfortunately, on the next video I do, I'll either have to do it on a piece of paper like this, unless I'm able to show you. But they are my selections for the Cheltenham Trials Day. Let me know what you think of all of them. And if you have any selections yourself, down below in the comments below. And I'll see you on the next one.